Assalomu alaykum hammaga. Xudo xolasa bugun Unlock podcastining keyingi epizodini Alloma bilan olamiz. Alloma Ivy League universitetlari a'zosi bo'lgan Brown universitetida full ride, ya'ni 4 yil davomida hech qanaqa xarajat qilmasdan turib Ivy League education olish imkoniyatiga ega bo'lgan va bugun Allomani tarixiga, shu natijaga erishishda nimalar o'ynaganiga va o'zlaridan fikrlarini eshitishga harakat qilamiz. Rahmat Alloma, taklifimizga rozi bo'lganingiz uchun. Ozgina kuttirib qo'ydik, ming bor uzr. Hammani oldida uzr so'raymiz. Ozgina kuttirib qo'ydik. Har doim shunaqa bo'lgan. Har doim ozgina kuttirib qo'yganmiz. Ozgina degani ham 1 soat kuttirib qo'yganmiz ko'pchilik holatda. Xo'p, Alloma, xudo xolasa bugun shu yerda o'tiribmiz. Shuncha harakat qildingiz, shuncha narsalardan o'tib keldingiz. Xudo xolasa endi mana avgustda uchib ketasiz. Avgustda uchib ketasiz. O'shandan oldin baribir o'qish bilan band bo'lasiz, ish bilan band bo'lasiz, ko'p vaqtingiz bo'lmaydi. O'shaning uchun biz xohlardikki, bizni ko'rib turganlarga shu vaqtgacha o'rgangan bilimlaringizni, tushungan narsalaringizni iloji boricha bugun ochib berishga harakat qilsak. Biz ham xuddi shunga moslangan savollar tuzib kelganmiz. Maksimum ochishga harakat qiladigan. Bizda bitta an'ana borki, biza o'sha mehmonlarni, kelayotgan odamlarni, gaplashayotgan odamlarimizni qanaqadir nomerlar, qanaqadir aytaylik nomlar bilan define qilmasdan, masalan, Ivy League'ga kirgan IELTS 8.5, SAT 1520 emasda, o'zi qanaqa inson, u nimalar, ota-onasi qanaqa rol o'ynagan, yoshlikdagi muhit qanaqa rol o'ynagan, uyda qanaqa muhit bo'lgan, qanaqa decisionlar orqali shu joyga kelib qolgan. Bilamiz, IELTS 8.5, SAT 1520 hammada bo'lishi mumkin, lekin sizning uydagi muhitingiz, maktabdagi muhitingiz, litseydagi muhitingiz yoki o'sha xalqaro aytaylik programmalarda qatnashgan muhitingiz hammada bo'lmagan. Bu sizni unik qilgan. O'shaning uchun birinchi aytaylik boshidan boshlasak, hammasini boshida qanaqa boshlangan, hammasi o'sha ta'limga qiziqishingiz, o'qishga qiziqishingiz, masalan siz ham masalan o'qishga qiziqmaydigan yoki kitoblardan o'qisa zerikib ketadigan yoki umuman biror narsani o'zgartirishga harakat qilmaydigan inson bo'lishingiz mumkin edi, lekin siz u yo'lni tanlamadingiz. Va shu narsaga birinchi o'zi qanaqa sababchi bo'lgan, uydagi muhit qanaqa bo'lgan, uydagilaringiz qanaqa sizni support qilishgan boshidan beri, o'sha haqida ozgina gapirib bersangiz.
Okay, if I answer?
Yes, you can answer in English too.
Okay, great. So from the very beginning, I think the most defining factor in my life was my name. Like it's a joke that we make all the time in my family. My grandfather named me Allomaxon. It's an Uzbek word that means like a scientist, multi-purposeful scientist, let's call it like that. A person who is interested in a lot of things. So for example, people like Abu Ali bin Sina were called Alloma. Because they were like in medicine and math and all that sort of stuff. So I think my name really suits me because from the very beginning I was very interested in studying, and you know, I was the typical nerd, типа отличница с первой парты, that type of girl. And my family always encouraged education. It was never a question of whether, oh, ты не технарь, можно не учить математику, or like something of that sort was never on the table. So my mom and my grandfather from my mom's side always told me like, Alloma, study as much as you can. Knowledge is never going to be extra. So I think growing up with this sort of influence in my family had a big effect on me because like I loved studying in school. So I went to school number 178. I'm not going to say that this is the most academically rigorous school and I was surrounded by the smartest people of Chilanzar, but definitely I had some nice teachers in primary school, and I have to thank my English for my school as well, because I learned English in school and I had an excellent teacher in primary school who taught me all of this English. And afterwards I transitioned into a lyceum, because I wanted to make it a bit more academically challenging. I wanted to surround myself with people who were also interested in studying abroad and who liked challenging themselves academically. Yeah, I think in the Lyceum it got a lot more serious, and that's where I found my true surrounding. People that were interested in me and I was interested in them, because in school it was a bit different. Everyone was kind of like doing their own stuff. And in the Lyceum, it was like a more close-knit community, since we had less students. And yeah, what else should I mention?
Bitta narsaga e'tibor berdim gapirganingizda. Maktabda asosan nerd bo'lganman dedingiz, отличница bo'lganman dedingiz. Bu degani men hayolimga nima keldi? Siz aytaylik maktabda bo'ladi shunaqa inson o'qishdan tashqari boshqa ish qilmaydi, social life'ga ham tupurib qo'ygan desa ham bo'ladi, faqat o'qiydi. Shunaqa bo'lgansizmi yoki baribir social aspektlarga ham yetarlicha e'tibor bergansizmi?
In school, I studied until like 9th grade. What type of social life do you really have in 9th grade? I didn't do any sports. I played piano like on my own at home. I was like self-teaching myself piano, but all my social life started after I transitioned into a lyceum, because there we had like clubs, student government, all those MUNs were trending. So my social life started closer to the end of high school. I didn't really do anything when I was studying in school, just studying, hobbies and stuff.
Demak o'zingiz uchun o'zingiz create qilgansiz asosan maktab vaqtlari. Tushunarli. Muhit ancha kompetitiv bo'lgan bo'lsa kerak menimcha. Maktabingiz o'zida.
No.
Chunki baribir masalan men maktabingizda aytayotganingizda maktab bitirganda o'sha siz ingliz tilini yaxshi bilgansiz. To'g'rimi? Chunki maktab ingliz tiliga ixtisoslashtirilgan bo'lgan. O'zbekistonda bunaqa maktablar ko'p emas. Ya'ni public schoolda bitta fanga ixtisoslashtiriladi, lekin ixtisoslashtirilgan degan narsani isbotlash qiyin. Masalan, biz ham ko'p maktab ko'rganmiz, matematikaga ixtisoslashtiradi, fizika, ximiya, lekin asosan hech qanaqa farq bo'lmaydi. Sizlar maktablaringiz ancha yaxshi bo'lgan ekan, demak, to'g'rimi?
The situation changed right now. I don't really know how is it right now, but for me, I was very lucky with my like классный руководитель, we can say. So she was an English teacher, and we started learning English in 2nd grade instead of the 5th one. So from 2nd grade, she would sometimes replace unnecessary subjects with English. So we would have English instead of классный час, we would have English instead of труд, рисование, and so on. It wouldn't be like always like that, but she put a lot of emphasis into her own subject, and I think that my grammar and vocabulary improved, got it all from school. But closer to like 7th grade, the quality of education decreased drastically. We wouldn't have teachers for all subjects, and I think this was one of the reasons why I even applied to lyceums. So in terms of academic rigor, it wasn't that competitive. Like people there, I do have my classmates, right? But not all of them speak the same English as I do. I think a lot of self-work was also put into the language, because my классный руководитель, she got me interested in English, and I started watching like YouTube when I was like in 4th grade in English. So watching YouTube, Disney shows, all of that compiled, and that's how I ended up having good English right from school.
Tushunarli. Demak, litseyga o'tganingiz asosiy reasoni, maqsadi competitive environmentga o'tish bo'lgan, academically.
And to have like all the teachers, in lyceums you have less people, so it's easier to provide teachers for all subjects. In school we would come like for 5 hours, 4 hours, and sit through 2 hours without a teacher. So one of the reasons why was because I wanted to actually get education, not just sit in school и заниматься там дополнительными и все такое.
Litseyga o'tdingiz, keyin kutganingizni oldingizmi academically?
I think yes. In lyceum I studied in it's called like aniq fanlar. AFR 221. I studied in this group, and we had 3 specialized subjects. It was Russian and literature, math, and a foreign language. It was supposed to be English, but as I told you before, I came out with good English right from school, and I saw the B1 textbook. I was thinking like, this is going to be very boring. Having English 5 times a week and studying like B1 level English would be super boring. So we gathered a couple of people, I think it was like 12 people, and we decided, 12 people with good English, decided to ask the principal to make a German group. So like the lyceum offered German and French once a week as a second foreign language, and we said that, well, our English is already good. We passed the DTM test with like the highest score. So can we study German from scratch? Because 2 years is like more than enough. 5 times a week for 2 years, you can reach like the intermediate level. And they said, well, let's try. And since now AFR 221 is the German group, they study German as the main foreign language. So we started this tradition, and I think this is what really made the lyceum worth it, because I learned German, and also the math teachers were excellent. We had some of the most amazing teachers in math, Stella Vladimirovna and Igor Grigorovich. Whoever ends up in Diplomacy Lyceum, if you get those math teachers, you're going to be excellent in math, because I started with like not that good level of math, was like very surface level, and by the end I think I fell in love with math. I started enjoying math lessons as well.
German language qo'shgansiz kurikulumga, qo'shishga yordam bergansiz, contribution qilgansiz. 2 yil 5 kun haftada faqat ingliz tili bilgan tilingizni o'qimaslik uchun. Va bu narsa masalan siz litseyizni hayotiga, litseyizni kurrikulumiga baribir qanaqadir o'zgartirish kiritdingizda, o'zingizni aytaylik contributionlaringiz bilan, o'zingizni ideyalaringiz bilan. Xuddi shu narsa haqida college admissionsga ham gapirdingizmi? Nima uchun gapirdingiz? Bu qanchalik muhim?
In my essays, I didn't mention that explicitly. I think I asked my German teacher to mention that in her recommendation. So she said that, well, we didn't have a group like that before, and this was encouraged through Allama and stuff like that. So it was mentioned in the recommendation letters.
But you knew that you will include.
Obviously, well, because German was like a subtopic throughout my entire application. So when I was writing why us essays, I was mentioning some like German clubs, for example, in Brown. Or when I was talking about some of my extracurricular activities, the German program was there, and it was a subtopic in my entire application, so it had to be mentioned in the recommendations.
Tushunarli. Demak, German bu supporting aytaylik ideology bo'lgan sizda. Admission applicationingizda. Xo'p, endi sizdan sal tashqariroqqa chiqamiz. Tasavvur qiling, 9-sinf xuddi sizdagi holatda maktabda o'qishni davom ettirishni xohlamayapti. Nimaga? Biladi, chunki maktabda academically it's not challenging. 11-sinf 10-sinfga o'tgandan keyin o'zi e'tibor kamayib ketadi. Ko'p maktablarda, public schoollarda va litseyga topshirish kerak. O'zbekistondagi qaysi litseylarni maslahat berasiz? Nima uchun litseyga topshirish kerak? Topshirish kerakmi o'zi yoki davom etish kerakmi? So what do you think about it?
I think that if you actually want to study, you should go for a lyceum, because still, even in our lyceum in diplomacy, we had people who just came there, просто ради галочки, they sit through classes and went to their own like дополнительные. This makes absolutely no sense. If you want to go to tutors and prepare for like DTM tests or anything else, I think you should stay in school, because it will be much easier to balance it all. But if you actually are interested in exact sciences, or I think we have other sort of tracks in lyceums as well. I think in diplomacy they even have like history related tracks or languages related tracks. If you're actually interested, if you want to continue in university in the same field, lyceum is a perfect opportunity, because at least speaking for my lyceum, they do prepare you really well, at least for Uzbek universities. In terms of math, DTM math, and English, like you're going to be absolutely fine. You don't even have to go to tutors if you know how to study in a lyceum. So if you want to academically challenge yourself, go for it. And speaking of recommendations, of course, каждый будет хвалить свое. I loved my lyceum. I think Westminster Lyceum was also very popular. It's considered the best one, so I would suggest applying to the top ones, but also including some safety options as well.
Demak, men hozir conclusion qilganimda o'zim agar nima qilardim? Agar o'sha lyceum offer qiladigan narsalar menga kerak bo'lsa, lyceumga borardim. Lekin prosta lyceumni ikkinchi prioritetga qo'yib, o'zim ishlarimni SATga tayyorlanishim yoki admissionsga tayyorlanishim bo'lsa, maktabda qolgan yaxshiroq. Tushunarli. How about the environment at lyceum, people around you? I mean, classmates, course mates.
Well, I think it gets better. If you're looking for, if you're looking to surround yourself with smart people, it gets slightly better than school, because still those people had to go through testing, and they got selected from a pretty big pool of applicants. So your surrounding gets a little smarter. So it's nice to be surrounded with people who are at least have the same interests as you. And for me, when I went to the lyceum, I was surprised to find out like so many people are applying abroad. So I found my own little community that I could hang out with and like ask questions, and we could deal with all of this ginormous application process all together.
Ko'pchilik litseyda admissions process qilgan.
Exactly.
Good. Litseyda o'qish qiyinmi?
Math was challenging because of our teacher. I know that in Uzbek groups they didn't have those teachers, and it wasn't that hard, but our teachers, they were like very strict, especially for math. So we would stay up all night solving a lot of math problems, but I think it was all worth it, because knowledge is never extra. So, developing those neurons in your brain, it was definitely a bit more challenging than school, but it's not like Harvard or anything.
Demak, qiyin relatively qiyin environment admission. Siz admissionsda o'sha litseyda o'qigan vaqtingiz boshladingizmi yoki undan keyinmi?
No. I had a dream of studying in the US even when I studied in school, but I didn't know how to do it. So I figured it out throughout the 2 years in the lyceum. So at the end of my freshman year, in the beginning of the last year in the lyceum, I applied as usual, like a senior. But it didn't work. I got rejected. I think I applied to maybe like 10 or 12 universities. I got rejected from them all, and then I had to take a gap year and apply again. But throughout these 2 years in the lyceum, я вот варилась в этом котле, где все подают. So I was aware of the process and I went through it twice.
Nima rejected bo'ldim deb o'ylaysiz birinchi yil?
A lot of mistakes. First of all, I was SAT optional. I did not submit my test scores, even though I took the SAT twice at the time. My highest score...
1340 midi?
No, 1370.
1370.
This was the second one. 1370 was the first one, and then I took it again. It was 1340, so it dropped. So my highest score was the first one, 1370. I thought that it was not good enough. I didn't send it. And what it looks like right now is that I'm coming from like a public school. No one knows what do we study there, and I don't have an SAT. So my 5.0 GPA says nothing about my knowledge, about how academically rigorous my curriculum was. So I think this was one of the mistakes. And the second one was that I applied, I don't know, how can I explain it? Without a laser focus. So I was showing myself as a well-rounded student who is, knows it all, history, math, English, German. I was, trying to seem well-rounded instead of being laser-focused in one field and going in one direction. And obviously my essays were not that great. I didn't do enough research and I started quite late. I didn't apply early decision anywhere. So it was a combination of a lot of mistakes. And of course, financial aid. Since I was requesting a full ride, this is an investment that the university is going to make into you. They want to invest in the best of the best. So I was not that great. I did not present myself in the right way.
Demak, birinchi yil juda ko'p xatolar bo'lgan, tayyor bo'lmagansiz, bor narsa bilan topshirgansiz asosan. Applicationingizda ham alohida bir hamma narsani bog'lab turadigan bir meaning bo'lmagan.
Exactly. I did not have a purpose. What am I going to do with this education? And it was just all over the place.
O'zi universitetingizga kerakligini qatdan tushungansiz?
Well, I love studying. I think I'm not even going to stop at the bachelor's level. I think I might even continue. But university, I think it's just a great place, first of all, to obviously to become an expert in a certain field, but also to surround yourself, to network, surround yourself with the right people and, build a career out of it.
O'qish yaxshi ko'raman dedingiz. Endi, hop, birinchi yil topshirdingiz, ikkinchi yil topshirdingiz. So, siz asosan college applicationingizda sohalarga qiziqish degan joyda baribir adashmasam gender studies. And
the first academic interest was political science, and the second one was gender studies. And I realized that I'm interested in these fields in the second year. In the first year, I was applying as international relations, global studies, something like that. And I only included one academic interest, which was a mistake. But then throughout the gap year, I realized that I'm more into the political science rather than...
O'sha protsess haqida gapiraylik. Masalan, 9-sinf maktabni bitirganingizda sizda hop you had no idea what to study.
No, I did. No, I think I was always interested in this like international work, the UN, and I was always interested, drawn into that field. But I was, a lot of people say like в МИД пойти, Министерство иностранных дел, or like diplomat. I wasn't really interested in working necessarily for the government because it limits you a lot, but I was always interested in going and having like an international experience. I still don't know if I'm actually going to end up having political science as my major, but this is the field that I always knew. But between the first and the second application round, I was not sure if I liked international relations more or political science just in general. So, what was the question?
Endi men so'ramoqchi bo'lgan narsam oxirgi masalan topshirgan hozirgi interestingiz bor-ku. Political science plus gender studies. Endi o'sha vaqtda siz umumiy olganda o'sha global politics, global relations, international relations ga qiziqqansiz. Qanaqa eventlar bo'ldi, qanaqa reflectionlar bo'ldi, nima aytaylik actionable steplar qildingizki, shu siz yanada clear bo'lishga yordam berib o'zingiz.
So throughout my time at the lyceum, I took part in a lot of MUNs, some online ones, some offline ones, and so on and so forth. So MUNs were the deciding factor. I realized that I liked doing it. Right now, the quality of MUNs is not that great. So for anyone interested in going to MUNs, I would suggest starting with something like an online international conference. Sometimes they're free. But then, picking a bit more serious ones here in Tashkent, because sometimes it just turns into like a fun party that everyone goes to. So MUNs were the deciding factor. Then I was like, yeah, I like this. I'm going to go into IR. During my gap year, I also took some, courses on Coursera, introduction to political theory, introduction to international relations. So I saw what I'm going to study for the upcoming 4 years, the theoretical side, let's say. The MUNs were the practical side, and then online courses were the theoretical side. And I love history, but I'm not going to say I'm the greatest at history. I just love, like reading and analyzing, connecting the dots. Why is a certain country behaving in a certain way? And I think all of this, and also my love for foreign languages, led me to choose this path.
Sizda demak, men hozir o'ylashimcha, yoshligingizdan bir nechta patternlar bo'lgan. Baribir xuddi shu narsaga sizni lead qilgan. Uydagilar qanaqadir mana shu sohani o'qiysan, bu sohani qara degan.
No, I never had something like that. I'm really grateful that my parents never forced me to go in any field. But I had the freedom. They told me, like, choose whatever you like, honestly. Like, as long as you're going to make money, it should be good. But no, I was never pressured into choosing a certain field. My parents supported me in anything I did.
O'zingizni politik sifatida ko'rasizmi kelajakda?
Political science doesn't equal a politician. Let's clarify from here. I don't think so. Like, if you want to be a politician, you need to have a specific country in which you're going to, do your politics work. But I think in the future, maybe like a non-governmental organization founder or something like that, doing something more for the people rather than, not all politicians
For
do.
the system.
Yeah.
Doing something for the people rather than the system.
Yeah.
Gender studies ga keladigan.
Gender studies. This is an interest that I actually, I always ignored this major when I was going through it. I was like, well, what the hell is gender studies, right? What is it? But then during the gap year, I took one course on, I think it was introduction to gender studies, something, or women in politics, something about women and representation. And I was like, damn, I like this. This is what I'm always talking about, how women are underrepresented in governmental structures, and we don't see a lot of women in power. And I realized, okay, I like gender studies. I included this as a second academic interest. I think that at Brown, I'm mostly going to take electives from that department, because majoring in this thing, it's not that hard to double major. So I think I'm going to take electives from that department because it really ties well with the political science thing that I have going on.
Qanday kelib qolgansiz gender studies? What ideas inspired you, excited you?
You can think of me as the rebellious daughter that always talks about discrimination on the dinner table. I always was like that. I was like, my biggest role model growing up was Emma Watson. Mm-hmm. Do you know what she does? She's the UN woman, he for she and stuff like that. So I always had this gender inequality topic was always on the table for me. And I realized that gender studies basically analyzes how gender influences different fields. And I'm specifically interested in how gender and politics get combined. So that's why I included this as a second academic interest.
Lekin bitta ko'pchilikda shunaqa aytaylik admission sohasida, application sohasida yurganlarda bitta ideologiya bor. Qanaqadir global topiclar borda. Masalan aytaylik, birinchisi gender studies. If you include how oppressed you are in specific aytaylik society, underrepresented bo'lgan odamlar tarafidan aytaylik ularni voice-ini olib chiqsa, you have more chances, you have more aytaylik more attention.
Yeah, okay, I get your question. Gender inequality is a social problem that we have going on, and playing the victim is playing the victim. No one is going to pick you just because you're playing the victim. Instead, the university is interested. Okay, so you identified this social problem. You said that you experienced it. So what? What are you going to do with it? If you're just playing the victim and crying in your essays like, oh, I get oppressed and so on and so forth, then obviously the university is not going to be interested in you just because you are a victim of gender inequality in your country. But if you show, or at least you have a vision of how things should be changed, how you, как ты можешь приложить свою руку к тому, чтобы это все изменить, then it can help. But playing the victim never helps in any essays, in any process. So playing the victim is different from, actually highlighting a certain social problem that you experienced and showing how you want to change the world. Because those top universities, they want to invest into future leaders. They want to make sure that their alumni end up changing the world. So just saying that I'm experiencing this problem is not necessarily helpful.
Demak, bitta problemani aniqlaganimizdan keyin, u problema haqida yetarli tasvirlaganimizdan keyin, u bo'lishi mumkin it can be gender inequality, it can be something else. Va o'sha problemani ustida biz qanaqa solution bera olishimiz kerakligini actionable steplar orqali ko'rsatib berishimiz kerak. We have to show our vision.
Yeah, how are you going to use your education in order to help solving this social problem if you are so interested and invested in it? Because, for example, if you want to go and study computer science and your entire essay talks about how you feel oppressed as a woman in Uzbekistan, it doesn't make sense. You have to connect these two. What are you going to study? Here's a social problem. So how are you going to use your education to help the society? If that makes sense.
Zo'r tushuntirish bo'ldi. Ko'pchilik menimcha ko'rib turganlar ham qaysidir sohani tanlasam ekan, nima qilsam ekan deb yurganlarga baribir masalan hozir sohasini tanlamay yurganlar nima topshirsam ekan, ko'pchilik topshiradigan masalan ko'pchilik identify qiladigan sohalar bor. O'zini aytaylik, many people choose economics, many people choose political science, computer science, gender studies, whatever. Lekin o'zi actually masalan sizni hozir men siz bilan gaplashib turganda bitta narsani tushunyapmanki, siz kollejga bormaganingizda ham o'sha narsaga qiziqqansiz. O'zingiz as a person you were interested in gender studies, political science and you were about to do something even without the college. To'g'rimi?
Yeah, I was interested in those fields without going to college, but I don't know how you can do something in those fields without going to college, right?
Okay.
So yeah, technically you're right.
Xuddi shunaqa narsaga chiqmoqchilarga qanaqa tiplar berasiz?
Go ahead and explore your options. There are so many free courses. You can even take like free courses from Harvard. You don't need the certificate. You don't have to pay those $200. Go ahead and explore different fields. If you have time, if you're still in like 9th, 8th grade, this is the perfect time to explore different things. And this is the only way you can find out what you like. You can't do one move and expect this move to be the right one. You have to take like 10 steps to make one step forward, let's say.
Explore qilish kerak, identify qilish kerak, reflection qilish kerak. Siz birinchi yil rejection bo'lganingizdan keyin hamma universitetlardan reflection qilib xatolaringizni aniqladingizmi yoki baribir discourage bo'lib qolmadingizmi? Kiromadim, men o'xshamasam kerak, I'm nobody.
This is exactly what happened. I had a lot of psychological trauma because, you know, I'm the kid that gets academic validation. This is my main form of validation, and not getting into university was like a big shock because probably I was thinking that I'm doing everything right and like how could it go wrong? So I had to step back and think about my application and a lot more seriously. I'd say I did a lot of self-analysis of how I presented myself in my personal statement, my supplemental essays, my extracurriculars, and so on and so forth. And I did a lot of self-analysis and rebranding, let's say. During the summer, I actually took a very interesting course. It was called like something like developing a personal brand. You know how in business you always need a personal brand to be, you want to be remembered, right? Starbucks has the mermaid, the green mermaid. You always see it and you think Starbucks. So you have to think about it. When the admission officer is looking at a ton of applications, is he going to be able to put some sort of a label on you? So, oh, this is the girl from Uzbekistan, like a feminist, something politician or something like that. If they can't think of a label, how are they going to remember you out of 60,000 people? So I was thinking about what label can I literally put on myself so that my entire application is laser focused on one thing instead of showing me as a well-rounded student. Everyone who applies to an Ivy is a well-rounded student. So you have to think about what you are interested in and make your entire application about it. My last year, it was bad. Like it was all over the place. I was talking about math, history, and like international relations. So it was a big soup of all of my interests. I had to filter out a lot and just stay laser focused on one thing.
Birinchi yil ham Brownga topshirgansiz?
No, actually I didn't. In the first year, I only applied to, to Yale. This was the only Ivy that I applied to.
Interview ham olmadingiz?
No. This was the red flag. I didn't get any interviews. I started getting suspicious in like early March. I was like, am I going to get rejected everywhere? I haven't received any interviews at all.
Men hozir guess qilishga harakat qilib ko'raman sizni spike'ingizni. O'sha laser focus bo'lganingizni. Aytgan narsalaringizdan menimcha sizniki aytaylik O'zbekistondagi gender inequality'dagi muammolarni, social problemalarni politics orqali solution berish.
Exactly. I was talking about underrepresentation of women in in governmental structure, politics. I think some of my essays for other universities are also talked about domestic violence and this new law that we have that doesn't really function. So yeah, mostly.
Demak o'sha mavzu bo'yicha research paper qilgansiz, o'sha aytaylik baribir datalar yig'gansiz.
I did a comparative paper on comparing Uzbekistan to Sweden. Sweden is like, let's say, the most equal country because they have a lot of interesting things going on that, you know, help achieve gender equality. And I was comparing Uzbekistan to Sweden in like certain sections, areas.
Gapirayotganingizda bitta narsaga e'tibor berdim. Many people consider MU1 as a cliche activity. O'zingiz ham aytdingiz oxirgi vaqtlarda o'zi MU1, men o'zim personal experience'imda MU1 ga umuman bormaganman. Nimaga bormaganman? Chunki men tasavvur qilaman qanaqa bo'lishini. Oxirgi eshitgan gaplarimda MU1 faqat men bu formalniy tarafi for the sake of aytaylik vaqt o'tkazib olish uchun tezroq bu narsani tugatib partiyaga ketish uchun degan narsa bo'lib qolgan. Xo'p, endi oxirgi yillarda aytaylik o'tgan yili ko'rgan applicationimni почти yaxshigina qismida MU1 bor edi. Hozir hamma MU1 qo'shsa uni volingiz tushib ketib, siz qanaqa o'sha narsani qo'rqmasdan o'sha narsani yana qo'shdingiz?
It all depends on how you describe it. Because if someone is planning to study, I don't know, engineering, computer science in university, and their top one extracurricular is MU1s, it doesn't make sense because this is not a valuable experience for them. They're just doing it for the sake of doing it. But for me, it tied well with my academic interests. And I wrote I think in some of the supplemental essays, you have to talk about one extracurricular activity. And I wrote about it in terms of not necessarily doing research or like polishing my public speaking skills, but also about how I learned how to speak up and that my voice matters. And how obviously, yeah, the research part was a good learning experience, but drawing uncommon conclusions from common extracurriculars is that what's going to help you basically. I think the college essay guy has an article about it, how to describe common extracurriculars. I think he talked about like if you play basketball and if you write about it in your college application and you say that all you learned from it is that how to play in a team, then this is a common thing. It's going to be ignored. But if you play basketball and you make some really uncommon conclusion from it, you connect uncommon things, then it actually turns interesting. So don't be afraid to include MU1s if this is related to your academic experience, academic interests, and if you learn something apart from, you know, speaking and doing research. First of all, I found a lot of friends from MU1s, expanded my vision of the world, let's say, and also my personal statement there's an interesting story in my personal statement. I think we can come back to it a bit later, but at the end of the personal statement, it all comes down to the fact that I learned how to use my voice through this simulation. So going into the world and trying to use your voice to solve certain social problems seems scary, but MU1s were like a simulation of it, and they helped me learn that my voice matters no matter who I am and where I am, and that I also somewhere I mentioned that MU1s taught me how to apply, you know, like foreign knowledge, foreign experience to Uzbekistan and how to develop it. So I'm not going to tell you exactly because, you know, MU1s was once again another subtopic in my entire application, and different conclusions were made in different places. Specifically for Brown, I talked about friends from MU1s. They had I think 150 words essay or 100-word essay talk about the most meaningful extracurricular activity. So I thought about, well, if everyone's gonna write about how they, I don't know, did something super, super fancy. And I talked about it how my first line in the essay was, my laptop hinge is cracked. Like literally, the thing is cracked. And then I started explaining it at the end. I said something like, but MU1s were more than a conference. Oh, but MU1s turned out to be stronger than my Lenovo laptop because the friendships that I forged there turned out to be stronger than my Lenovo laptop. It was like a cool metaphor for how MU1s helped me find my people. I'm an introvert, a very introverted person. And in school, it was hard to find people with common interests. And MU1s provided me with this like sense of community and belonging.
Oxirgi marta qachon bordingiz demak?
I think it was a long time ago. Last July. Yeah, last July.
Men aytmoqchi bo'lganim, ko'pchilik itiylik bitta proyekt qiladi, nimadir qiladi. Universitetga kirgandan keyin tashlab qo'yishadi.
Well, if it's a club in school, you need to make sure that you pass it down to someone so that it continues its thing. But for example, with MUNs, I love this activity still, even though I don't go to a lot of MUNs right now because of the lack of time and not the best quality of them. But I want to join the MUN club at Brown. They have like a special committee that organizes MUNs. So I'm still interested in it. So I plan to continue that in college. But doing something for the sake of and this like extracurricular activity just for the sake of including in the Common App is very obvious. The admission officers will be able to spot it right away that you did it for the sake of, just including it in your resume.
They have to know that it takes, I think, 10-15 seconds to identify.
Exactly. You don't need to have 10 extracurricular activities. This is such a common misconception. I see when I was giving the consultations, people would send me their Common App files. The first 3 are like good. And then the quality starts decreasing. And at the end, it's something like, I help my mom cook dinner every day or something like that. Including family responsibilities is good. But if you actually did something, unusual for a teenager. But make sure that the quality of your extracurriculars doesn't decrease when it comes to number 10. You can have, 6 amazing extracurricular activities. And when the admission officer reviews your file, he's going to be left impressed after reading the last line. And not like, oh, wow, this sounds interesting. And then you just flopped at the end, right? So you don't need 10. You can have less, but higher quality ones.
Tushunarli. Bu mavzudan keyingisiga o'tadigan bo'lsak, we know that you had experience in Germany. Til o'rgangansiz va bir litseyda har xil programmalar topshirgansiz. Bu qanaqa programma edi? Sizga qanaqa yordam berdi? Nimalarni tushunishga yordam berdi? Yana bir international levelga chiqdingiz. O'zi men birinchi marta chiqishingiz bo'lsa kerak o'sha Germany international programmaga.
Yeah, this is the first one.
Qanaqa bo'ldi u, nima bo'ldi?
So this is a program sponsored by Goethe Institute. Goethe Institute is like a cultural center in every country that's sponsored by the German government. Their job is to spread the word around German culture. They offer German language courses, exams, and so on. And they have like a project called PASH. These are schools around the entire world that partner with the German government and that create exchange programs for teachers. Like Malika Oshirish, something like that. They send teachers to Germany over the summer, and they also offer programs for students in those schools. So in Tashkent, we have the Diplomacy Lyceum, and I think maybe like school 112, not school 160, another school that offers German language. These 2 schools are considered Paschschule, and exclusively for these schools, there's this program that you can apply to. So you have to study in either the Diplomacy Lyceum or in that school to apply to that program. And then if you get elected, then they pay for all of your expenses. They bring you to Germany with a teacher. And you spend like a month in a very distant German village. So it was not in the city. I think we lived in such a tiny, tiny, tiny little village. It was a monastery, like a monastery. So we lived there. We had German lessons for like 6 hours every day from 9 to 3. And then like a lot of activities. They would bring us to different cities and also prepare us for an exam. At the end of the program, you have to get a certificate. It's like IELTS, but for German. So yeah, this is the program.
Demak siz nemis tilini bilasiz.
Right now, I haven't practiced this for like over a year. Right now, I'm trying to catch up with everything, kind of like revive the language. I haven't been using it. I didn't have any lessons. And I'm trying to catch up because I want to continue learning German at Brown as well.
Til o'rganish odamga qanaqa ta'sir qilar ekan?
I think it's a very interesting concept because I'm different in different languages that I speak. So in English, I'm very extroverted. I love talking. But if you ask me to talk in Uzbek, I'm going to be super shy. Maybe it's because, I don't have enough vocabulary, but still. And me in Uzbek and me in Russian are also different people. So it kind of like creates alternative personalities for you. But also, this is very useful for brain development. The more languages you know, the more flexible your brain is. And I think that's just always beneficial. Knowing more languages makes you a more competitive applicant in the job market as well.
So, men tushunishim bo'yicha sizdagi yangi dimensionlarni ochadi.
Exactly, yes.
deylik hozir siz masalan o'zbek tilini biladigan odamlar faqat o'zbekcha muhitda o'ylashni boshlaydi. Rus tilini biladiganlar yana qo'shiladi. Xuddi masalan menda ham uyda o'zbek tilida o'rgangan bo'lsam, maktabda chiqib rus tilida o'qigan bo'lsam, уже menda boshqacha hayot tarzi qo'shilardi. Plus ingliz tilini o'rgandim, umuman boshqacha. Endi boshqa tilni o'rgansam, umuman boshqacha bo'ladi. So, language learningni masalan siz German mana subtopicim bo'lgan deyapsiz. O'sha narsani qanaqa qilib yetkazib bergansiz universitetlarga? Что siz uchun German language is something very important.
I didn't, include it in a way that it's something very close to my heart, but rather a way of how I academically challenged myself, how I went out of my way, let's say. So because they compare you to other Uzbek students, or at least from Central Asia, if they see that you're doing something extra, something outside of the standard curriculum for your school or for your region, then it shows that you are challenging yourself academically. This is the lens that I showed German. This is the lens through which I showed German. It's like more of an extra challenge for myself, let's say.
Tushunarli. Xo'p, keyin o'sha sentyabr boshlandi. You have sentyabr, oktyabr left.
Which September?
Second year of application. 2 oy qoldi early decisiongacha. Siz Germaniyada o'sha vaqtda borib o'sha qaytganmisiz O'zbekistonga?
Yes, I returned in August. I think August 26 I returned. I had my SAT on August 27.
1520 o'sha vaqt.
No. Are you talking about August of
2023? Yeah, 4.
Are you talking about the time when I studied in the Lyceum? When I was going into my senior year?
I'm talking about the time that you have graduated the Lyceum.
Okay. Yeah, got it. So after I graduated, I started working to make a lot of money to spend, on the SAT and pay for some of my expenses, let's say. In August, I took the SAT. I prepared for it for 2 months, only self-studying. And the fact that it changed to digital form was also really cool. So I got a 1500. And after that, I was like, yeah, I nailed it. I don't need to take another SAT. But then someone told me, Aloma, maybe you should go for it. It's another extra $100. Take the October SAT. What if it's going to be higher? I did take it, and in total, I had a 20 plus 20, basically. So in October, I was done with SAT. Throughout August, September, October, I was working on this personal brand, rebranding myself, thinking of extracurricular activities, essays. I started brainstorming for my personal statement. And that's what I've been busy with throughout the summer and early autumn. And then I was preparing to apply early decision to Barnard College.
Yeah, Barnard.
Because it's a women's college, it's in New York City, and it's under Columbia University. I don't know. I just had a big dream of studying in New York City. I love this city. I always wanted to be there. And the fact that, everything is close in New York. You got all the internship opportunities. And the fact that it was a very small college. They only have they only take 800 students every year. It's still under Columbia. So you still get this Ivy League diploma. It's very close-knit, and it's an all-women's college. Political science department there is also super cool. So that's why I thought that Barnard was a good choice.
So you get the same diploma as students of Columbia?
Yeah, I think you do it. It's called Barnard College of Columbia University. So Columbia University has 4 colleges, the
Liberal Arts College?
College of Arts and Sciences, Engineering School, Teachers College, and Barnard College.
What was your problem with Barnard?
Financial aid. Columbia itself is not even that generous. So imagine Columbia, their financial aid is actually separate. Columbia has their own funds for those 3 colleges, and Barnard has a separate application, and they have a separate fund. So turns out, even though Barnard has 10% of its student body as international, they usually take very rich international students, those that can pay. So they keep this 10% by taking very rich international students. I actually got deferred from early decision. Basically, I didn't get rejected because I was, probably I fit in, but they wanted to see me in a pool of all applicants. I don't know, probably compare who can pay more. And Barnard is also need aware. So financial aid, I think, was the deciding factor here, because otherwise everything was perfect with them.
So you think that you had no problem with your application? But it was Barnard's problem that they didn't have money.
Yeah, because I sent almost the same exact application to Brown. Well, the supplementals were different, of course, but everything else was the same.
Dekabr 15 defer all these. Holat qanaqa?
Yeah, 2 weeks left. New Year's coming up. I have like 20 colleges to apply to. This was insane. I was so sure that I was going to get into Barnard because I don't know why. I was very sure that I was going to get in. I thought that Uzbekistan is an underrepresented country there, so they definitely need someone. And I was very like shocked, like, okay, what am I going to do? I have the college list. I need to write a lot of supplemental essays. I would wake up at like 7 o'clock every morning. Waking up at 7 o'clock in the morning in winter is so difficult. So I had to force myself to write. And on the New Year's, it's 31st of December, everyone's making Olivier Silotka Patshubi, everyone's having fun. I'm sitting in the basement writing. I came up for 30 minutes, okay, cheers. Here's the new year, went to bed, woke up at 6 a.m. next morning to finish essays. So I was writing a lot during those 2 weeks. Don't make my mistake. If you apply early decision anywhere, make sure that you write your supplementals while you're waiting for the decision.
Lekin men bitta narsaga e'tibor berganman. Hamma IB kirganlar, hamma zo'r universitetga kirganlar oxirgi 2 haftada yozadi.
Well, yeah. I'm not going to say that. Well, if you write one essay for too long, you just start overthinking. You start changing it a lot. So you think that you're perfecting it, but you're making it worse if you spend too much time on one thing.
New perspectivega vaqt bo'lmaydi-da. Odam o'zini miyasini refresh qilib, yangidan qarashga vaqt bo'lmaydi o'zi.
Well,
you have 2 weeks. That's it.
Oh, actually, I didn't start writing essays, but I started making like Google documents for each university. So I would collect interesting stuff about each university. I would have just like one Google document about Brown. Like if I ever came across like a professor that I liked, I would write him down their classes. It was like a big chunk of something, clubs, classes, anything else. And I had a document like that for each university. So I had those things. I just had to look at the document and create supplemental essays out of it. So I did some research, but the essays were not ready when I received my deferral.
Are you proud of your Brown essays?
I loved my Brown essays. Like, I don't know. I never looked at Brown like, oh, I really want to go there. The whole reason why I even applied was because I met... No. Brown was need aware when I was applying to it. They became need blind this year, and now they're requesting SAT. But yeah, the whole reason why I applied to Brown was because in May, when I was graduating school, right after I was rejected, I had a family dinner with like family friends, and family friend's son basically graduated from Brown, and we had an amazing conversation with him, and I was like so impressed, like, wow, I never thought of Brown, I never really considered applying to Brown, even though I knew it was an Ivy. So after him, I added Brown to my college list. I didn't ED there because it was not like, wow, I really want to go there. Barnard was still my top choice. But then, you know, like, okay, I think it's a sign from the universe that I need to apply to Brown. And then I was like, wait, Emma Watson went to Brown. I was like, yeah, Hermione Granger, Emma Watson, this is the school. So that's the reason why I even applied to Brown. And actually, when I started researching it and looking at the essay questions that they asked, they were really interesting. There was one question like, what is one thing that makes you happy? Whether big or small, mundane or something, what is one thing that makes you happy? I was like so shocked because no other university asked about it. And I wrote about making collages. Like, I love romanticizing my life. I have this tradition that I take a lot of pictures every single month. Every single month, I collect all these pictures in one collage, and I also put a receipt with the most played songs from my Spotify. This is just a fun little tradition that I've been doing for like a couple of years now, and I wrote about it, how it helped me with my mental health. Because when I got rejected from everywhere, this was like a period in my life when I was like super sad. I was playing the victim. I was, thinking like life is unfair. I did so much work. I studied so much. It's not working out for me. And just romanticizing your life helps a lot in terms of, like being grateful for what you have. And I wrote about this small tradition, like 200 words about this. So this was one of the really good questions that Brown asked. Other questions, they were also interesting. There were like some small questions as well. How can you describe yourself in 3 words? I had to think about it a lot. And I wrote about the fact that I love Taylor Swift. Where else can you mention that? So the questions for the essays for Brown, I really, really loved them. They were very genuine, and compared to others, I think I put a lot of effort into those essays.
Yaxshigina humor ishlab kerak ekan-da.
Exactly, yeah. Showing a bit of personality, sprinkle it a little bit, and connect it to, obviously don't forget about the academics. This is the university, but including a little bit of personality gives, the admission officers a sense of, that you're a person, because he's looking at those 60,000 applications. Everyone is the valedictorian in their school. What are you besides academic?
Man hozir siz gaplaringizni eshitib, siz o'yladim, Brownga ancha fit qilgansiz deb o'yladim. Nimaga? Why? Because Brown is academically aytaylik more o'ziga ko'proq baho qo'yadi chem Garvard. Because they ask more SAT, they ask IELTS 8.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was really surprised with that. I didn't know it.
Garvard masalan 7 bilan ham okey bo'ladigan bo'lsa, Brown 8 so'raydi. SAT'lari ham Garvarddan ancha baland. Eshitganman, Brownda o'sha academically ichkarida qiyin. Xuddi Tufts College'ga o'xshaydi. Tufts University. Academically it's challenging for the students. O'sha ular eshitganimda shunaqa deb eshitganman. Siz masalan hozir yoshligimdan beri men nerd bo'lganman, maktabda doim qo'limni ko'tarib o'tirganman. Litseyga ham yaxshiroq academically challenging environmentga borish uchun. Sizda o'sha academically o'zingizni challenge qilishga passion bo'lganda, o'sha narsani pursue qilgansiz va Brown ham menimcha o'sha narsaga match qilgan.
Interesting. I mostly when people talk about Brown, they talk about the open curriculum and the fact that there's no GPA at Brown.
Yes.
They don't calculate your GPA, and technically you can finish your undergraduate degree without having any marks. Without, no A's, no B's, just pass and fail. So in terms of academics, Brown is actually more chill. So because there are no required courses, you can take any class for pass or fail. Well, technically you can, but I think there are some limitations to it. A lot of people that end up taking a class with you, they are actually interested in that class. They're not taking it as a requirement. So for example, a lot of, I don't know, probably you have to take one philosophy class. 90% of those people sitting in the philosophy class are going to be there just to fulfill the requirement for your degree. But in Brown, you have to sign up for a class that you're actually interested in, since there are no requirements. So I think in terms of academics, it was very surprising for me that, no one really cares about your GPA. You study what you want. There are no requirements. And I actually like it because there's a lot of freedom to explore different academic interests. And I think that in those terms, I fit them really well, because I combined lots of stuff in my application still, like German, political science, gender studies. The open curriculum is actually going to allow me to take all of those classes.
O'sha vaqtda boshqa Ivy League ham topshirdingiz?
Yes, I applied to Columbia and UPenn. Didn't apply to Harvard or Yale.
Or how about other small liberal arts colleges?
It was a lot. I think I can pull up a list.
10 tadan ko'p universitet topshirdingiz, to'g'rimi?
Definitely.
Why do you think you got rejected from them all?
Financial aid, probably.
How about UPenn?
UPenn? I don't know. Oh, I don't really think that I fit into the UPenn culture. Whenever I think of UPenn, I'm thinking of like Wharton, finance, super serious, career-oriented. Maybe I just didn't fit in personally.
Baribir hamma kollejlarni research qilgansiz, to'g'rimi?
Exactly.
Давайте men sizdan so'rayman. Siz o'zingiz tushungan culture haqida gapirib berasiz. Ko'rayotgan odamlar ham mana bunaqa ekan, sizni holatingizdan tushunib, o'sha narsaga javob berish mumkin. Masalan, aytaylik siz when you think about UPenn, what comes to your mind is like corporate life,
Yes.
Business, finance. O'sha. How about Yale?
Yale? Well, honestly, I didn't apply to Yale this year. I didn't do that deep of a research, but like I think about Gilmore Girls, Rory, but I don't know, elite, super fancy. I don't know.
Men Yale'ni eslaganimda mana tuyuladi. Ota-onasidan juda katta heritage boylik qolib, o'zi bir umuman pul olib kelmaydigan ish qilib o'tiradi, rasm chizib o'tiradi yoki nimadir qilib o'tiradigan bolalar graduate qiladigan joyda.
You majored in a hobby.
Yes. So you have everything, you just study.
Yeah.
Yoki politics ham yaxshi masalan.
Yeah, Yale has a nice political science department.
Yes. How about Harvard?
Same. Looks very similar to Yale, at least to me. Like I didn't apply to Harvard just because I didn't feel the connection that I couldn't even see myself being, like a Harvard student. Not in terms of I'm not smart enough to be, but like too elitist, let's say.
Too premium.
Yeah. A lot of rich people, president's kids.
Xo'p, Yana qaysi Ivy-larga qiziqasiz?
Columbia.
Cornell, Columbia.
No, I didn't apply to Cornell. Columbia. I applied to Columbia because I was desperate for Barnard. No, I applied to Columbia because they have an institute, I don't remember what was it called, but that deals with Russia and post-Soviet Union. Columbia has some really nice professors that teach classes about Central Asia, and I was looking for like research opportunities there because the professors there are super nice. There's one professor that wrote a book about Uzbekistan and Central Asia and like the president change in Uzbekistan. That was like a really nice professor, and I applied to Columbia because of this like Eastern European Studies department. I think it was called something like that, and because it's in NYC.
Colombiada o'zbek professor ham bor.
Yes. I heard about her as well. She teaches something like about Islam.
Yes.
Yes. I actually wrote her an email. She didn't respond.
Brownga fit bo'lganman deb o'ylaysiz, to'g'rimi? Boshqalarga fit bo'lgan bo'lsangiz ham financially pul yetmagan bo'lasiz sotib.
Probably.
Imagine you got into Barnard with full ride scholarship and Brown. Which one would you choose?
I was thinking about this a lot when I was waiting for the regular decision applications. I think I would still choose. It would be a very hard choice because on the one hand, Brown opens a lot of doors for you because it's an Ivy League, but Barnard, it is a part of an Ivy League, but you still need to explain it. So I think I would go for Brown. Even though I loved Barnard a lot, if I was offered a spot in an Ivy League, I think, it's a 1 in a million chance, so I would still go for Brown.
Bitta orqaga qaytamiz, keyin oldinga o'tamiz. Hozir oldinlashib ketib qoldik. I wanted to talk about gap year. Gap year, siz masalan Toshkentda katta bo'lgansiz. Muhit baribir ozgina rivojlangancha viloyatdagilardan ko'ra yoki boshqa insonlardan ko'ra ko'pchilik gap yearni they think it's a waste of time. They think they had to get into college as soon as possible, as soon as they graduate the high school. If they take a gap year, it's a failure deb biladi. What do you think about it?
If you take a gap year and you sit at home and watch Instagram Reels, then yeah, it's a waste of time. But during my gap year, I was working. I was taking online courses. I was still studying the same thing I would study in a college. I literally looked up like textbooks that they use in American colleges for like political science. I read through them, and I was working, I was studying, and obviously the application itself takes up a lot of time, but still I don't think it's a waste of time. And my mental health improved a lot. I don't know how, but I did a lot of, you get to be alone a lot during your gap year. So this is like another way to improving yourself, being disciplined, because when you study in school or university, you always have a schedule, you always have somewhere to go to. But when you're on a gap year, it's like you have all the time in the world, and you could basically lay down and scroll your phone, but it teaches you how to be disciplined, how to consistently learn and combine a lot of stuff. So I think for me the gap year was very beneficial because I saw myself from a different lens. I got detached from this label of going to school and like being a student for a little while, and I think for me it was like a period of a lot of personal growth.
What would be your advice to parents?
Believe in your kids, because when kids I recently saw like a meme about how Jewish people always tell their kids that they're the best. And that's why Jewish people end up being the best in a lot of different spheres. But telling your kid that, you're good at this, continue, I support you, is a lot of help, basically, yeah. I'm really grateful for my mom, because she would always tell me like, Alama, go for it, I'm gonna support you. And having this, belief inside of you, knowing that your family supports you no matter what, that you are worth no matter what, is very helpful. So don't think of a gap year as something like shameful. People in Europe take multiple gap years and then they can go to university when they're like 25. No one has a problem with it. You still have a whole life ahead of you. You can, if you don't end up getting accepted during your gap year, you can go to like any college here in Uzbekistan and graduate in 3 years. For example, at Webster, you can just take a lot more classes and graduate in 3 years, so you're going to compensate for it. So you still have options, but shooting your shot is important, in my opinion.
You have to explore yourself.
Exactly.
Be it in college or without college.
Exactly.
Hop, April 1da chiqdi, ya? 31-martda chiqdi adashmasam.
29th of March.
29th of March. How did you feel after it?
This is a fun story as well. So I was getting rejected throughout the entire March. There was one acceptance in the middle. It was from Bard College in Berlin. They invited me for an interview. There's Bard College in America, and they have like a type of filial in Berlin. They wrote me an amazing letter, how an amazing student I am, and so on and so forth. And when it came to financial aid, they told me like, sorry, you don't have enough money. There was like a minimum that you had to pay. It was like $10,000. And I didn't show that. So they were like, you are accepted, but
You need
money. So it was like one acceptance, and everything else I was getting consistently rejected. On 28th of March, Barnard was releasing their results. When I was getting rejected, I was thinking like, but I'm gonna get accepted into Barnard. Like, I know. March 28th, it's gonna be a good day. I got rejected. It was like early morning, 28th of March. I got rejected. I cried. But then I was like, okay, I'm gonna go meet with a friend. So I met with my friend, and she was like, Alama, this is their loss. Come on, let's remake your LinkedIn account. Let's redo your resume. Let's think what you're gonna do for the summer. I'm not joking. That Thursday, I went to bed at 11 after redoing my resume and applying for like an internship. I already thought that I'm gonna get rejected everywhere because Barnard was the last non-Ivy. On Friday, March 29th, only 3 Ivies were left. I was thinking like, I got rejected everywhere. Probably something is wrong with me. Even Barnard rejected me. How am I gonna get into an Ivy? So I decided that no, it's not working out. I'm staying here in Tashkent. Let's think what I'm gonna do for the upcoming couple of months. In the morning, I would usually put an alarm to wake up and like check the results. I didn't even do it. I slept like a baby. My mom came and wake me up and she said like, so, что ты проверила? I'm like, no, I didn't even open. So she got into my bed. We're opening my phone. I don't see anything with glasses. So first it was, I don't know why, but NYU. I think it got lost somewhere. I opened NYU. It was a rejection. I was like, okay, fine. I didn't really want to go there. NYU Abu Dhabi. And then it's Brown. Brown was not my dream school whatsoever. I just wrote the essay. I forget about it. And I'm opening the Brown and I see there are no sparkles, nothing. It was just one bold word, congratulations. And for some reason, it was like really small on my phone. The letter was like shrinked. I don't see anything, but I see the word congratulations and I start crying. I was like, what? How is that even possible? I got rejected everywhere. How is that even possible? So I cried and I smiled and all of that. So afterwards, I didn't really care that I was rejected from UPenn and Columbia. So Brown was like, it came out of nowhere. I wasn't even hoping for it.
Have you ever thought about rejecting the Brown?
Rejecting Brown? Why would I reject it if it's my only option?
I mean, getting one shot from Columbia next year, maybe.
No. Why? Brown is the same level as Columbia. You're still in an Ivy League. It's the same.
Decision qilasiz.
Obviously, like it's the only option left.
Good. What would happen if you didn't get in anywhere?
Go to a local university. Still, you can. It doesn't really matter that much where you study. Like, if you are meant to be successful, trust me, you're going to be successful even if you go from like a local university. And I could get my master's in the US. Well, why not? So I was still trying to keep a positive mindset and thinking like, if I'm meant to do something big, I'm going to do it in any place. Brown, Columbia, Barnard, it's just like an extra. It's an additional door opened for you. I thought of it like that.
It doesn't matter where you are.
Well, it does matter, but if we look into like in 30 years and 50 years, well, not that big of a difference. Yes, you can start being successful at an earlier age if you go to the US, if you go to like a university abroad, but there is something in you that, I don't know, is going to change the world, you're going to change the world anywhere, whether it's in the US or in Uzbekistan. So this is what I thought, at least.
It was just an option. Universitet option again.
This is just a tool that you use to succeed in life. This is not, your entire life should not revolve around getting into your university. Because what are you going to do after you get it?
You study.
You study and then what?
And then nobody knows.
Exactly.
Then you get into job, then work.
Yeah.
That's
your 9 to 5.
Maybe it's 10 to 6. bir ikkita narsalar qolib ketdi orqada. O'sha narsalar haqida ozgina gaplashib o'tsak, birinchisi personal statement.
Go to a therapist, explore your trauma. No, you have to, try. Don't tie yourself to a question. I see a very common mistake when people choose one question from the Common App out of 7 and they are trying to find an answer to that question. Think about it like, how can I show some of my personal qualities through a certain situation? You're not writing about a situation, you're writing about you as a person through a lens of a certain situation. So think about it, have multiple situations that you can describe, try to write drafts, and only then select the question. And only then modify your draft to fit the question. That's the mistake I did in my first year. I selected a question and I tried to think, how can I answer it? Instead, think about like a situation in your life that was either like a turning point for something or something like super big that changed you as a person. And also remember not to show, don't tell. Right? Writing about I have this and that, I'm good at this and that is not interesting. So leave some room for imagination. So show a situation. The admission officer is going to make some of its own conclusions. Like, if you are responsible, show a situation where you showed this like characteristic of yours. So show, don't tell. You can like combine it all. Make sure that you have a conclusion, but keep this thought in mind.
Bitta joyda yozganingizni ko'rgandim. Don't include your personal biography
Exactly, yes.
into the personal statement.
You don't need to list all of the things that you did during high school or anything like that. If there's some very meaningful extracurricular commitment that you have and you can tie it to that situation, to that personal anecdote, then it's great. That's what I did. Right? But you don't need to list like 10 extracurricular activities or everything that you did in school into your personal statement. It's a personal statement, it's not a resume.
Men ko'pchilik o'quvchilarga mana bunaqa maslahat beraman. Hayotingdagi asosan shu vaqtgacha bo'lgan eventlar haqida, hammasi haqida reflection qilgin, yoz. Hammasi haqida yozgin. Alohida farqi yo'q, bittasigami. Iloji bo'lsa, shu asosan look for the fear, look for the happy moments and look for the pain. O'sha 3 ta moment aniqlaganingdan keyin how did you respond to those moments?
Nice.
And choose one of them or connect them, and then you can create one personal statement and you can conclude tied to the college goals, tied to the what happens next. O'sha fikrga qanaqa deysiz?
That's a very nice advice, because looking back I see that my personal statement did a similar thing. So I talked about a situation when me and 2 of my younger siblings got stuck in a burning building. It was a literal thing that happened. The house, we lived in an apartment building and the apartment beneath us was on fire. And for some reason, my parents used to lock us like with a key, and they didn't leave a spare key for us to leave. I don't know, probably for safety reasons. We were just sitting there, everyone's doing their own thing, and I realized that all the windows are like gray. And I looked down and I see like 3 those machines. There's fire going on there and we can't go out. And I, as the oldest sibling, I'm responsible, right? I'm supposed to look out after them. What am I gonna do? Everyone starts crying. I'm scared. What am I gonna do? How are we supposed to jump from the 5th floor? Obviously no. We start waving out of the window and no one sees us because it's like covered in something gray. There's like a cloud that it's not visible. My phone was not working for some reason. Internet is not working. The electricity is out. How do we call our parents? No one has a spare key. And in this situation, the smartest move that I made, that I remembered those safety classes that we had in school. You know that in school sometimes they have like один классный час, где вам рассказывают про пожарную безопасность. What you need to do. I remember that we need to breathe through like a wet cloth. And this is literally what saved us. We put on swimming goggles on our eyes and we locked ourselves into the bathroom. And this is the moment where I had to take action. But I also said that, previously, before that event, I was not the kid to, go out of my way, use my voice, or I was a very introverted kid, not really a fan of taking action, going with the flow. But this situation changed my mindset and taught me how taking action at the right time actually matters, and using your voice, in terms of in that case, it was literally screaming for help. But this entire anecdote showed, first of all, how I was responsible and how, taking action at the right time. And then I connected it all to some extracurricular activities too that I did. So it was this personal anecdote. I know probably not everyone is going to have, thankfully, a situation like that in life, but I described it in a pattern that I had fear, but I was forced to take action. But now I want to take action for those that can't. It wasn't that way. So I like my personal statement. I had the same situation in the first year, but the way I described it in the second year was like completely different. The conclusion that I made from the situation was like a direct opposite of how I described it in the first year.
It was interesting.
That's an interesting essay.
And so now I think we have finished questions about the application process, admissions, and so on and so forth. Now we can move to something general, something about life. So usually we ask these questions at the end of, usually we ask this type of questions at the end of the interview. So the questions are general, very general. So what do you think about the life itself? What is it? How do you define it to some extent? And why are you living now?
So like, what's purpose in life?
I mean, what do you think life is and why everybody is living? I mean, why these things?
Why are we floating?
Yes.
They're on a rock. I never thought about it, but like, I think we are lucky to be living on a planet that has water, oxygen. It's like 1 in a million chance that you specifically are going to be born. So for me, I really, really hope that I'm going to leave something after myself. So it's not like only my friends and family are going to remember me after I die. So I'm looking forward to do something meaningful in life and leaving some legacy. So
how do you want people to remember you? What?
I'm going to figure it out.
So it's not.
What do you mean?
I mean, now, if you die after 2 days, let's say.
We all will die at some
Yes.
point.
Let's say you will die after 2 days, and you will have a stone on your grave top, right? What do you want to be written there?
I don't know. I don't think I have done much during the 18 years of my life. But I hope people will have good memories of me. I don't know. Honestly, no idea.
No idea. Nice. Are you afraid of death?
No? Why?
Why?
Why would you? I mean, are you scared of the physical process of dying or like the afterwards?
I mean,
What's gonna happen afterwards?
overall.
No, I don't think I'm scared of that. Well, it's gonna come when it's supposed to come. You don't worry about things that you have no control over.
Nice. What is your biggest fear?
Becoming a housewife. Being stuck at home, becoming a housewife, I don't know. Asking for permission to leave the house or, not being independent. I think being limited, being like a bird in a cage. This is a very big fear of mine.
So, typical Uzbek life is not for you. Why?
Well, I think, what do you mean? What is good about it, let's say?
And what is wrong about it?
I'm not talking about, like having a family or like getting married. There's nothing wrong with it, but the way it's made in Uzbekistan is just a lot of red flags, let's say. You're very limited in freedom. There are so many horror stories of how girls can't even call their parents without having permission or like asking for permission to do something super basic like go meet with a friend, go visit your family. It's just like mind-blowing for me. I never had to do that in my own family, so I just like I can't cope with it. So a lot of freedom limitation, let's say. And the fact that many women in Uzbekistan after they get married they don't really develop professionally, so their main focus is the family. There's nothing wrong with it. Everyone can choose whatever they like, but when a person wants to work but they're forced to do the family stuff, then it becomes a problem.
So everyone has to have a choice. Everyone has to have a choice. Yes. So if they have a choice, if they have chosen it, if they have chosen this life, then nothing is wrong with it.
Absolutely. It's your life. You should leave it the way that you want to.
Zo'r. Keyingi savolimiz, everyone bizada keladi-yu, savol tashlab ketadi keyingi anavga mehmonga. So last guests were Abdulaziz and Saifullah. So they left the question: uchta xonlik qaysi biri eng kuchli bo'lgan deb o'ylaysiz? Qo'qon xonligi, Xiva xonligi yoki Buxoro amirligi? Justify qilish kerak. Justify your reasoning.
I don't know. Honestly, I don't remember anything from like
So
Uzbekistan history.
it's one Tashkent part, Qo'qon xonligi, Toshkent vodiy taraf. Keyingisi Buxoro, Samarqand, Qashqadaryo taraf, pastki taraf. Uchinchisi Xorazm, Navoiyning bir qismi, Qoraqalpog'iston kirib ketadi. Birinchi Rossiya bosib olganda Qo'qon xonligi bosib olgan, Qo'qon xonligi qarshilik ko'rsatgan. Keyin Buxoro amirligiga o'tgan. Buxoro amirligi urush qilmasdan joy izlab qilgan. Keyin Xiva xonligiga bormoqchi bo'lganda yo'lda qiynalib, bitta gap bera olishgan ular. Bitta gap bera olishgan. Keyingi yil borib, Xorazm xonligi ham biz fight they gave up. So what do you think overall? Who was the strongest?
This is very limited knowledge. Like, my conclusion is not going to be scientifically accurate. I don't know. Are we playing a guessing game?
Yes.
Like, let's say Shiva.
Okay. So my conclusion nima bo'ldi? Without the scientific knowledge, without historical knowledge, never conclude anything.
Exactly.
Good. Now, what would be your question to the next guest that you can ask?
What type of question?
Any question. It can be anything.
A fun
It can
question.
be what is
serious
2 plus 2. It can be anything.
No idea. I feel a lot of pressure.
You can think. You can take time.
Let's make a fun question. What's your favorite Taylor Swift era?
Taylor Swift era.
What's your favorite Taylor Swift era? But if they don't know Taylor Swift, then yeah, that's a useless question. I don't know, honestly.
Yes. Now, one of the last questions. Shu vaqtgacha keldingiz, shu joyda o'tiribmiz. Siz ham, mana yoki boshqalar. Va shu joyga kelishingizga ko'pchilik contribution qilgan. It's not something that you have done it all by yourself.
Yeah.
Your parents, your teachers, friends, people around you. O'sha insonlarga nima degan bo'lardingiz? Mana kameraga qarab gapirsangiz bo'ladi, xohlasangiz. Просто yurakdan rahmat sifatida nima degan bo'lardingiz o'sha insonlarga? Bemalol gapirsangiz bo'ladi.
Obviously, thank you very much for being by my side. Your support is what helped me go through it all, and my success is also your success.
Sizga ham rahmat kattakon. Bizani ko'rsatuvimizda yangi rubrikaga o'xshagan narsa boshladik. Sizga sovg'amiz bor.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh.
So I think you like it because it's all about politics of the country that you want to go.
Thank you so much.
Bu narsa nima uchun biz berdik? Birinchidan sizni kuttirib qo'ydik. Ikkinchidan when we have researched about you, we learned that you are interested in politics, so on and so forth. Agar aytaylik Pride and Prejudice o'qiganingizda boshqa kitob berardik. But yeah, rahmat kattakon kelganingiz uchun, fikrlaringizni nima bo'ladi? Qo'rqmasdan, personal statementingizdan masalan bemalol gapirib berdingiz, boshqa hamma narsani gapirib berishga harakat qildingiz. Rahmat kattakon. Xudo xolasa shu intervyuni ko'rib, kimdir ham sizni orqangizdan ergashishi mumkin yoki qanaqadir uyda o'tirgan bitta aytaylik inson o'z imkoniyatlaridan to'g'ri foydalanishi mumkin yoki kerakli vaqtda qanaqadir decision qilishi mumkin. Juda rosa qiziq bo'ldi. Men o'zim ham 1,5 soat bo'lgan bo'lsa, 1,5 soat 1:40 minut bo'lgan, 1 soat 40 minut bo'lgan bo'lsa, vaqt qanaqa o'tganini his qilmay qoldim. Xudo xolasa keyingi haftaning boshiga intervyu chiqadi. Rahmat kattakon.
Sizlarga ham rahmat.